John Doone.
John, what is your role here, just for us to get a great understanding?
I'm the director of the Search and Rescue International Training Centre, part of the Kosovo Security Force here in the Republic of Kosovo.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are catching up with UK International Search and Rescue's recent trip to Kosovo, and we are touching base with John Doone, who along with members of the Kosovan Security Force facilitated their most recent training in cold weather development. Today's wide-ranging conversation was brought to you by our partners at International Road Rescue and Trauma Consultancy, IRRTC, who are an international team specialising in transport-related vehicle extrication and trauma care to a worldwide audience. If you cast your mind back to episode 102, where we spoke with Steve North, who is one of the directors at IRRTC. Now again, these specialise in bespoke industry packages and courses specifically designed to meet the needs of military, security, close protection, counter-terrorism teams, as well as many fire and emergency services, government organisations, private companies, and so many more. They have got a whole host of upcoming courses this year, ranging from the new Trench Rescue Technician courses, the RTCI, the Heavy Rescue, Specialist Responder Advanced courses, and so many other aspects of CPD. IRRTC are based in Yarnfield Park, which is their leading training venue and conference centre right in the heart of the UK. So to find out a little bit more about the company, go over and speak with Neil or Steve at irrtcrescue.com and check them out in the notes below. Finally, to make sure you're staying up to date with the podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button for more wide-ranging conversations and to keep your finger on the pulse of the emergency services. So without further ado, let's jump in there with John Doone and UK International Search and Rescue's most recent trip to Kosovo in February 2022.
John, as people will probably be hearing, you are British. How on earth did you find yourself over here leading such an incredible project?
I've been here many times with many organisations, with KFOR's British military. I was here with the UN and the EU, and I was here with the NATO liaison and advisory team, whose job and mandate is to support and guide the KSF on their future structure. And I was the civil emergency advisor here for 4 years.
So what would you have taken part in that capacity? Because some people might have a vague understanding of what that looks like on the ground, but what was your actual role back then? What would you be doing working with the government and trying to assist them and support them, I suppose?
My job primarily was with all the agencies for emergency management. So in case of a disaster, human-made or otherwise, I would guide them through, okay, this is the plans you need to have in place, this is the SOPs you need to have. I'll take them through all the training. So we'd run exercises, we'd run drills, and that was my job for just over 3 years before I started here.
Just to give them a great understanding, obviously the facility we're at now is beautiful, and Croatia and Kosovo itself is a stunning country, but it has got, for want of a better description, a challenging and interesting past.
Yeah, there's not much argument with that. No, the period dating back to pre-1999, there were tough times here for many people. What the 1998-1999 war, again, pretty much tore families apart, tore lives apart. From the NATO intervention, a lot of those former fighters went through demobilisation, demilitarisation process, and from that the Kosovo Protection Corps was formed. Give them a purpose, I'd say, is the exact way to say it. If you've spent years doing that, somebody takes that structure away from you, then exactly what are you going to do?
And they're incredibly proud people as well. Even on the flight over, I was lucky enough to get into some quite deep conversations, and they're very patriotic. It was quite nice to hear and see, and even now I'm here, very hospitable.
Yeah, massively patriotic, but in a nice way, not in a steamy nationalist way. They are very proud of their country. They're very proud of where they were, where they come to now. Because if we look at it, the war, it's still fresh. It was 23 years ago. So
for many people listening, that may be the only association they make with Kosovo still.
Yeah, and I understand that because I used to think exactly the same.
Okay.
So,
but you want to keep coming back. You have kept coming back.
No, when this all started, as I was part of the initial planning process and amongst many others, and it was something that actually took over. Okay. And from developing it from something on paper to actually, okay, now we're doing this for real, we're going to make it happen. And to see where we've come from in a short space of time. Because I think that's important. If we look back and say the war was only 23 years ago, Kosovo was only declared itself independent in 2008. So in effect, the country is 14 years old now. Some major countries have still not recognised Kosovo, but from when the self-declared independence has been, one of the first countries to recognise was the UK. And the people here appreciate that appreciate what the UK did in 99, but also appreciate that they stood by them in 2008 and said, yes, we accept you.
So when did that shift really start happening from coming and training members of the emergency services here? I mean, we were speaking on our ride over about some of the dive jobs that we go to here, some of the mountain rescues, a very mountainous region. It's a very challenging environment to work in, as we're experiencing during this week. But when did that unique aspect of training people here to having that sort of appetite to create a centre where you actually become, you've got a team of instructors here now, and the facilities, as I keep reiterating, are great. When did that shift happen? When was the bold ambition to say, you know what, we've got an incredible opportunity here?
It actually happened before we even opened. We started with an idea. And then
Who's we?
It was a small team of maybe 5-6 people. We got to the stage where we had received training from many countries, UK, Germany, US, Turkey, etc. It got to the stage where we thought, and I believe rightly so, do you know what, we're actually pretty good at this now. So instead of being a training consumer, we want to be a training provider. And initially it was, we'll just train our own guys. The Kosovo Security Force. It was a very quick process where we suddenly started to think, we need to think bigger. And many more need this. The police need this. Firefighters need this. Local civilians, the more we can train.
What about the medical stuff as well? You know, I see some of the EMT work that you guys do. That was surprising to me. You know, I associated it solely with, from a biased perspective, was fire, was military, stuff like that. But you have quite a successful medical training course here, and you know, the different FREC 3s and 4s and things like that you bring people out on, and first person on scene. That's quite a large part of what you do as well, isn't it?
It's become, it wasn't at the beginning.
No.
At the beginning we focused purely on urban search and rescue, mountain and diving, water search. When we started to expand the syllabus and what we could do, we then changed it that we need a lot more medical, but we'll be specific on the medical. So for example, we do water training. It's resuscitation, drowning, things like that we teach people. On mountain, it's hypothermia, broken bones, etc. And urban, it was crush injuries, respiration, etc.
It's a real condensed playground, as well as the things you've created here, which we'll get into in a minute. It's very unique for that.
It's a fantastic place in that you can get anywhere in 2.5 hours in a car.
And equally, even the airport's only 10 minutes away, if that.
Yeah. No, we're in we are located, as you said, right next to the airport. 7-10 minutes away, but we're close to the centre of the country as well. So from here we can deploy wherever we're needed. So if there's a mountain search way down in the south, 2.5 hours, we're on site, we're ready to go.
Some of the resources you've created here, we're looking out the window, we can see collapsed structures, we can see tremendously large and long rubble piles, we can see helicopters, I can see very much a playground on the same standard, if not better than. I mean, you made the bold claim earlier, and now having been outside in the daylight, I find it hard to contest, of potentially being one of the most well-equipped facilities for that type of training globally.
Again, this wasn't the plan at the beginning. The plan was just
build
for
it and they will
ourselves.
come, though.
And that started to happen. That started to happen about 3 years ago. We were saying to people, you will not believe what we have.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And then they would come and look. And I think without missing one, we've blown everybody away by what we've got.
So talk us through what we have got here.
We've got, first of all, help from Sweden. We got their design for a collapsed and semi-collapsed building. That was our 2 starting points. After that...
Is that the 4-storey building I can see from here? Is that,
yes.
Or did that come after?
That's a semi-collapsed building, yeah. That's
because even, I don't want you to undersell that, because that's quite significantly larger than some of the ones that I will go to that may simply just be a one up, one down domestic premise where it's still a pancake collapse, but this thing is probably not short of a car park style building, for want of a better description.
Yeah, that's part of our, as I say, our strategy.
Okay.
Because we know that in many other countries they have more money than us, they have more resources than us. Yeah. So we have got to be bigger and bolder than
people think of some
else.
of the disaster centres like America, but they don't have the climate and they don't have the range that I think you're able to get here as well.
Yeah. No, our development from those early stages of collapsed and semi-collapsed, we then looked and thought we want to be able to train for every disaster, potential disaster possible. And that's when we got some trains. Let's do train crashes. Train crashes with hazardous materials. We've got 3 at the moment. 3 train carriages, 2 passenger, 1. But then it kept on spreading. What other disasters are happening? Helicopter crashes are happening.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a helicopter. People from earthquakes stuck in tunnels. Okay, we've got a tunnel system. 1 is not enough. We need more. So now we have 3.
I thought you had 3 as we were looking around the side today.
In every disaster, there's vehicles all over the place, so we needed cars, old scrap cars that we can put in there and train on. There's
You've got about a 4-storey rope rescue style tower as well behind us. It's very easy to walk past that, but that's quite a large building in itself.
Do you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot.
You were going to, because it's rope rescue is global and it's perhaps more recognised, and we know it sits within international search and rescue, urban search and rescue, but you walk straight past it, it's still a blooming impressive, very large structure.
It's, that was
There's
designed...
not a lot you can't train on that.
No, that was designed by my guys as well.
Okay.
They looked at, from their own experience, plus what they'd heard about and seen, and they designed it, and we put the plans in.
It says a lot about what you're doing to take that for granted, for you to forget that off the list, the fact of the other work that you're going on here.
Yeah, I'll have to give myself a bit of a talking to about that one, yeah. But yeah, we've now got 27 different training objects. So from 6 years ago, when we had 2, we've now got 27. And so the idea is whatever you think of, we can train on it. There's 2 things we don't do. One is tsunami and one is volcano. Everything else you can think of, we're going to go for.
You say you don't do tsunami though, and I suppose maybe I'm reaching a little bit here. I was interested listening last night when you said about this swimming pool style training area that you're going to be constructing. Hopefully I'm not giving anything away there if that's public information or not. Tell me a little bit about that project, because that's one of the next things you have in the pipeline. I don't know the time frame on it, but
no, that's for this year.
Is it this year?
The budget is approved for this year.
Wow. So what? Get specific for me. What you are looking to implement there?
We do diving training and swift water rescue, etc. We have to train outside, so we were pushing hard for our own pool.
Yeah.
The beauty was though is we designed it ourselves again, so we put down all the things we need.
Yeah.
So it will be about 30 metres long. It will be about 15, 16 metres wide.
So that's a big pool.
It's a big pool.
For most people, when they think about a Olympic swimming pool, for example, how long is that? 25
That's
meters?
50. That's 50 metres.
50 metres, yeah. So half the size of an Olympic swimming pool.
Just over half the size. It's big.
Yeah.
But we didn't just want a swimming pool. So on our design, the depth varies from 0.6 metres of water to 1.5 metres of water. So
you can have an entire floor of a house, effectively, or at least 2/3 of the floor of a house submerged.
And that's what we will do. We're building a house in the middle of the
pool. A house in the water. I thought that's what you said last night. I didn't know I misquote you. That's fantastic, because that is such an incredibly difficult thing to simulate, to extricate people from those situations, even if it's just body recovery, which unfortunately a lot of dive...
The majority are
recovering. Will be, you know, if it's not a rescue in the first 25 minutes, it's a recovery. But still a very dangerous thing to do. Less rushed, but still fraught with things that could go wrong.
There's lots of potential hazards,
and so difficult to train with it when you're and not be weather dependent. You know, when we've got a great training site at so-and-so water or at that canal. If the water's at the right level and it's not full of trolleys and it's not X, Y, Z and all this sort of stuff and it's not full of sewage, this is something where you can really control a lot of controllables.
Yeah, and that was what we were missing. There was lots of places we could do it, I say lots of underwater hazards. But to do it safely in a training environment is something different.
That's what I feel is kind of like a half pitch sometimes when you hear some training centres saying, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that if. And it must have felt, I'm sure you've been in those shoes yourself, where you try and give a guarantee to somebody, you're going to offer a service, and you turn up and the weather's just not playing or something's outside of your control. Whereas this, you're really removing all of those sort of hurdles, and this is something that's going to be ready to go, as is all the facilities we see before us today. Yeah,
it will be an all-year-round thing. We've done some river recovery operations before, and we've had to do them in all weathers. So for us to train as we operate, we need to be able to do it in all weathers. But I'm glad you mentioned about shopping trolleys. Because we're also building an underwater obstacle course. So the divers will have an underwater obstacle course.
For all of those entrapments and, you know...
Strainers.
Strainers, thank you. People getting stuck in strainers. That's really important because they're They're the things that kill people at the end of the day. And we've all seen the YouTube videos of police officers getting pulled underwater and stuff like that because they don't have the ability to read water in that same way.
Yeah, no, there's so many cases of that, literally so many. But yeah, a shopping trolley will be underwater along with concrete tubes for people to go through.
Yeah.
There'll be a car down there as well, so we'll have people trapped in the car, or mannequins trapped in the car, that we have to recover. And some of those, you never know, there could be air bubbles where they could still be alive. So lots of things to think about.
So I don't as well want us to move away from obviously the purpose of why UKISAR are here this time, because we've spoken about things that you have put in place to compete on a global scale, but you're also in a very unique position that you do a lot of great cold weather training here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You have the mountains right next to you. We're looking at an average -8 to -10 as it is currently. I know it gets significantly colder than that throughout the year and it varies, but it's a great climate for that. What about that cold weather training do you think is still so crucial for people to be able to get exposure to?
Basically, because it's something you'll never avoid. Every year there will be a winter. Whether it's harsh or mild, there will be a winter every year.
Yeah. And the climate globally seems to just be penduluming. It's either hot or it's really freezing cold.
Yeah, and it's difficult to judge now. Yeah.
It is,
You used to be able to say, in the winter it will be freezing, in the summer it will be scorching hot. Now you can't always tell. I had a team visiting last year, 2021, and we had a photograph taken on the rubble pile end of April, and there was about 20 centimetres of snow on the ground. Wow. That never happens.
No.
But it did last year, so yeah.
It feels like such a subtle thing that perhaps people don't think they need to train for it, because like, we'll get cold and then we'll get warm. The way it plays with your cognitive thinking, things that you would ordinarily find quite easy, your body is in overdrive, just trying to keep yourself going, handling tools, all of these things become so much more laborious and so much more difficult in those cold weather situations. And obviously the likelihood and survivability of the casualty significantly diminishes. Yeah. So it really does add an additional weight and pressure to everything that you're doing, I suppose.
Yeah, it's, as you put very well, easy things are not easy anymore.
No.
So when you cannot feel your fingers just trying to open a pocket, for example, to open a button or to do a zip on a jacket, simple things become hard, and those simple things then lead to potential life-threatening things.
That's what I mean, that cognitive side of it, you know, watching team members slowly become less aware, and certainly walking around a rubble pile, you can quickly roll an ankle, step on some rebar. Yeah. You can cause yourself a lot of damage very quickly just through not paying attention, especially when there's so many people working, there may be dogs in the team. There's a lot of complexity going on.
Yeah, and this is something we try to stress to people when they come here. For example, they'll do training and they feel fresh, but if they've just gotten off an aeroplane after a 3-hour flight, plus 2-3 hours check-in, plus travelling to get to the airport, and then by the time they get here, they're not 100%.
Yeah.
And add a couple of days of stress and fatigue. Yeah.
But certainly for UKISAR, that's an expectation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We are designed to be self-sustaining in country, deployed at short notice. So this is a very, very effective training scenario. Rather than going down to or up to somewhere local to you, you may think it's going to be very similar on the ground, but you've missed out all of that mental load and challenge that's come in just getting your boots on the ground.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, it's the mental thing. We all know when we go to on holiday, going to the airport is always stressful. Getting on the plane is stressful. Trying to find your bags afterwards is stressful. And all that happens for you guys, for UKISAR, before you even touch the ground.
100%.
You've gone through all of that, and then you're expected to get yourself set up, get out, start searching, start rescuing. You cannot simulate that in a 3-hour bus ride from one side of the country to the other.
Now, you spoke about the sort of respect and whatnot that's held for members of UK Fire and Rescue Service. You're now doing a lot more work with the UK International Search and Rescue. Why do you think that's important for what you're trying to do here? What sort of an indicator is it that this kind of facility is attracting members of UK International Search and Rescue and demonstrating that this is the place to be to receive that level of training?
For me, this is a very personal thing. Obviously, I'm from the UK.
Of course.
So for
it's
me,
nice to have somebody to talk to.
So for me, it was a personal thing anyway. But also, as I said, we wanted to move from training consumers to training providers. Yeah. I believe we've done that successfully a few years ago. For me, it was also a payback because we've had good support. 2007, 2008, 2009, we had Op Florian here providing training. 5 of my instructors went through that training with Op Florian.
Really?
And we met one of the UKISAR guys last time who was one of the instructors. back
that's
then.
Be surreal.
So that was fantastic. So we
talk about closing the loop for him to see where you are now.
Yeah. So we did the photograph of him and the guys, who aged a bit now, but it was.
And now they're the instructors. Now they're here,
And now they're the instructors.
And you've got a growing team of instructors here as well, which is great to see.
Yeah. So I've got that experience from them, and all of my guys who have had training from several countries. The one that stands out is Otflorian for all of them. So that was important to me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to pay back. We've also had support from the UK Embassy here, from the British Embassy, who donated us last year 170,000 euros worth of equipment. Wow. It was stuff we didn't have, and without it, we were struggling. They lifted our capabilities with that donation. So for me, with UK ISAR, I saw the Otflorian link. I saw the link of support through FCDO from the embassy, and it was, you've helped us, now we're going to help you. And it's becoming a partnership, basically, where we're learning from each other. It's just a great development. I'm quite proud of that. The UK invested.
Yeah.
Now we're paying back that investment.
Yeah. And now UK Fire and Rescue Service and subsequently UK citizens and the local fire and rescue services where we all belong are benefiting from the training we're now getting from a place such as this.
Yeah, and that's it. When we train other countries outside here, we are then exporting expertise back to that country. So if their own citizens need help, they will be better for it because of that additional training. It really is a win-win for everybody.
Before we close, I just want to say as well, I've been to a lot of training facilities at different places around the world, and most of them offer some good equipment and situations and stuff like that. But sometimes it's part of the charm that you're camping out in the woods, and we will do a little bit of that whilst we're here, I'm sure. Yeah. But you do have some incredible facilities here as well. And what I mean is, there's several great presentation rooms, wonderful catering we've experienced a couple of times already. Yeah. You have an incredible fitness facility. Not that should matter to some people, but to me, I very much enjoy it and I very much appreciate that. So yes, if you want to do the down and dirty and go up into the woods, it's very much possible. Yeah. So when I see this, I also see large scale, for want of a better description, tabletop scenarios, but you could run, Jessup style, multi-agency, big exercises here, multiple countries involved in simulating cross-service, cross-culture, cross-country working. Yeah. It's really, we look across this courtyard, I could see it, I could see several bases of operations set up out there with the facilities for your Silver and Gold Command working out of the rooms like we're saying right now. I think very few people can offer that. I just wanted to put that in there.
The vision is that we can cater for everything and everybody. And it's the small things like that actually lift the standards higher and higher. Yeah. So we want people to come here and when they leave to go back home and say, you will not believe what I saw in Kosovo. You will not believe it. And they won't. But one day they'll come here and they'll go back home and say, you know what, you were right.
Well, they are going to hear about it, brother. I can guarantee you that much. Just as we close, we've had the first day or two sort of familiarisation with the area. We've done some rubble pile work today. We've done some casualty packing and transport and stuff like that. Obviously, all of the course members aren't going to necessarily hear what we're talking about now, but what's the sort of thing you're looking forward to the UK ISAR setting up? You've done some work with the director and staff. What's planned for the next couple of days, and what do you think is either going to challenge them or be a great test for their skill sets?
Multifaceted. The main thing is, as I say, you have come here like a deployment. You've come through the airport, you've done the flight, transported to here, ready to operate. And that's pretty much what you've done immediately. You got here and you started to do the organisation, the planning, the risk assessment.
Security,
And now you're starting to move into now we're operational. Now we're going to start doing this. So the rubble pile that we've gone through today is a chance to blow off the cobwebs. That you've got people who haven't worked together before. Some of them know each other.
Some people have only been in the teams a couple of months as well. So this is all very new to them.
Yeah, and what better way to practice than to actually just get your hands dirty and get out and do it. So that's what will be increasing over the next 2-3 days. Far more hands-on in the rubble piles, in the tunnels, in the cold, and just
looking forward to heading up into the mountains at some point as well. I said they're literally only 10 or 15 minutes away from us, although I imagine it's much further to walk than it is just looking at the mountain.
I would describe it as a cheeky walk.
Cheeky walk, I love that. That sounds like a military term. It's a little bit cheeky, it was a little bit sweet on the end.
It's a cheeky one, yeah.
Good. John, thank you very much for your time, brother. I look forward to spending the rest of the week.
Appreciate it. Great, thanks, mate.
Over the next week or so, you are going to hear a little bit more from different members of the team, from the different functional roles to the different partnership agencies that we are working with. So hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about it, and stand by for some future updates from UK International Search and Rescue's recent deployment to Kosovo in February 2022. We'll see you soon.